February 11th, 2023. I want to address something that last Wednesday, a couple of days ago, they Seymour Hersh published an article on Substack, which basically confirmed that the general thesis that I had put out in my October the 1st video on the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines. Because at that time I presented somewhat cautiously, but a bit tongue-in-cheek, the argument that obviously Putin didn't destroy his own pipelines, that it was actually most likely done either by the U.S. or at least in coordination and with the approval of the U.S. And I also presented the idea that who would be best to pull it off anyhow under all the circumstances. And so, at any rate, this article, which I'll post in the description, a link to it in the description below, will actually goes through his investigative work at showing how it was actually carried out. He's a very distinguished and perhaps to some people in authority an annoying journalist that has had a long history of doing background stories on everything from the My Lai massacre to Abu Ghraib to the Israeli nuclear program to the backstory around the raid on bin Laden and so forth. So he's many other things. So he's a very noted journalist that generally comes out with a lot of amazing scoops, so to speak. So at any rate, so I'll go into that a little bit to show kind of the parallels there a little bit. By the way, if you like these videos, please give me a like. It helps with the algorithm, and of course, more subscriptions are always appreciated. Well, so at any rate, so essentially, what he's presented in the article, if you don't want to read through all of it, is that basically this, as I had said in my thing, I thought that this was probably a contingency plan that had gone back further in time. I guess I was a little wrong in that it didn't go all the way back to Trump, although it wouldn't have surprised me if it had, but it had been worked for some times at least within the Biden administration, and it goes into the people involved and so forth, essentially they use the Navy divers, not the SEALs, but the other Navy diver group that exists to do various tasks undersea of fixing problems and so forth, and also destroying targets that are they're not part of the Special Operations Command, but they're skilled divers, and of course they're experienced at demolition also. So and then there's a whole description of how Norway also got involved in the area too, and how they did. I mentioned in the video that we did have a naval exercise in that area in the Baltic Sea, and they did in fact use that as a cover to plant the initial explosive devices, which were then detonated later by some sort of an acoustic signal that was delivered by a sonobuoy that was dropped in the water by a Norwegian aircraft at the time of that was appropriate. So I pretty much had a lot of that right. I may have overemphasized a couple of things. I mean, it really wasn't as deep as originally, but apparently it's not routine diving depth, but it's not the really deep diving stuff either. But you also had to do the demolition work under that kind of environment. So that probably adds to the challenge with the water currents there and so forth. And the main thing was to do it in a way in which it was concealed from people. So I think it speaks pretty well. I was pretty much on target with that. I'll also post a link to my October 1st video below too, if anybody hadn't seen it, just to see. You can kind of judge for yourself on that. But I think that I was pretty well able to put this together. It's kind of interesting how the people are reacting to it. I think conservatives, Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham and Bongino they're all have jumped on this story somewhat. I think the mainstream has kind of gone away from it, and so far the U.S. government is denying it's accurate. However, I'm kind of wondering how long that will hold. I mean, but apparently in the current environment of Ukraine war enthusiasm, I guess everybody's supporting the team on this one for the most part. But but I think it's pretty clear cut who did do it, and it'll be interesting to see now how this new revelation will actually play over in Europe, because obviously the Europeans' hands have been kind of forced by this. But then again, they're kind of trapped now at this point anyhow, right? So we'll see what happens on that. But so that's kind of what I wanted to hit on that subject. I thought it was kind of interesting. The other topic that's been in play a lot lately are these balloons. The Chinese balloon that was shot down, and now we also have another balloon that, well, let's not say balloon, another object that was shot down just north of Alaska and the Arctic, which will be interesting. Apparently, the debris landed on the ice, so it may be easier to recover that, I would think, if it's not underwater. And see what it turns out to be, whether it's another balloon. This one's supposedly, allegedly, about cylindrically shaped and about the size of a car, which makes it kind of interesting. Of course, there is the possibility that it could also, we may have shot down a UFO. I mean, given the path it was on and the location, it doesn't seem to me to be like it's coming out of China. So maybe it's coming from Russia, even if it is a balloon, or some kind of a drone, maybe. I don't know. Is it something like 40,000 feet, which is kind of a little high, well, just slightly higher than the normal commercial airline peak, but it's in the range that various kinds of aircraft are routinely, certainly military aircraft might fly at that altitude. It's considered to be an air hazard is the justification. I think the main justification is we didn't shoot the other one down in time, so we're going to shoot this one down in time. And yet it's another kill for the F-22, which is seeing a lot of action lately. Apparently these balloons don't know to watch out for that aircraft. All the other countries don't want to engage with it, but the balloons apparently are a little bit slow on that. But anyhow, I just think it's interesting that this has created an issue. My own thought is, yes, I'm sure that the thing was in gathering intelligence. I'm not sure what the threat level of that was. Obviously, some expense was obviously put into making the first balloon I'm talking about, and so it was probably recording who knows what kind of communication intelligence or tracking radars, or maybe just tracking our responses to it and our ability to detect and how we respond to it when it shows up, how fast we respond to it, and what way we respond to it. And I think the other aspect is it was probably maybe a signal that, hey, we can go ahead and do this, and what are you really going to do about it? It looks like that the Chinese are kind of flexing their muscles there a little bit by doing this. And I also think, I still tend to think this may be a little bit related, as I mentioned before. I think that it could be related to the war in Ukraine, because I think that I don't think the Chinese want to see the Russians lose there at all, because if they did, that might kind of lose them a key ally, and I think they want to maintain that alliance. They want the energy supplies and raw material supplies out of Russia, and only that, Russia does have certain technical means that they really haven't developed yet, internally, and so they probably want to continue that relationship. So seeing the Russian regime getting in too much trouble would not be good. So my thought is that to some degree this may create a political distraction for the U.S. to kind of say, hey, look at us over here in China. We're a problem too, knowing there's not anything we're really going to do about it in the near term that much matters. And so it may deflect our efforts a little bit. And I think that might be something that the Chinese might want to accomplish, because there is going to be an upcoming meeting, between Xi and Putin, I believe. So that's another aspect of it. Also, it may have been a way just to stop the Blinken trip, because I'm sure that Blinken was going to try to put pressure on them to further tighten their relationship with Russia. So rather than having to have a face-to-face showdown, maybe they're doing this and forcing us to cancel the trip was a way to kind of have that sort of an impact without actually creating a bigger blowback than it otherwise might have. So at any rate, that's just some thoughts I have on these subjects. And of course, as always, I'll be posting this on Rumble, and my social media accounts are in the description below. Those on Twitter that are interested should certainly follow me, because I post fairly frequently, usually daily on Twitter, various reactions I have to upcoming events, some of them serious and some of them less so. So anyhow, all for now. Until next time.